we've got a nearly full supercharger actually. Plugged in Hardeeville, seeing some pretty weird behavior here with how the power is coming up and down. Well, I may have sent it a little too hard on the way up here on I-77. There was very little traffic. Good morning from Orlando, Florida. We're just in the elevator at the hotel. It's about 9:45 in the morning, got a little bit later start than expected. Woke up a little late, had to do some work this morning, but we're headed out to my Tesla Model Y, my 2023 Model Y all-wheel drive 4680 battery pack. We're headed all the way back to Charlotte, North Carolina, straight through. There we have the charging stations. We've got my blue Model Y, we've got another Model Y, and we have a Mach-E. Gotta remove the adapter here. Had to unlock the charge port after unplugging. Normally I try to do that in one swoop, but a little hard with one hand. So here we have my Model Y, deep blue metallic. We've got the base 19-inch wheels. I've taken the aero covers off because I don't want to damage the wheels. The way they attach it actually scratches the wheels if you leave them on. Not a huge fan of that. We've got some Rally Armor mud flaps. We've got the black and white interior. As you can see there, looking nice. And if you're wondering about this paint protection film, this is something called Expel Track Wrap. It's actually a temporary paint protection film because I'm getting it professionally done in Minnesota, but I'm putting about 5,000 miles on prior. So I wanted to protect the paint while I'm on these road trips, and that way all the bugs will just come right off. I've got it on the sides here as well. And then I also have it back here, so that way as I'm taking my suitcase in and out, I'm not damaging the paint. And of course on this side as well. So like I said, we're headed home today, so we're gonna see what the nav wants to do. We're charged to 90% because I'm gonna be doing my own routing here. But let's just see what the car wants first. So it looks like it wants us to do 4 stops, which is fine. And one of those stops is correct for what I want to do, but let me manually put in the route that I want to go, and I'll explain why in just a minute. So here we have my manually entered route. So we're gonna be first going to Daytona Beach Gateway North, St. Augustine, World Commerce. Both of those are at Bucky's. That's why I picked those two that are closer. Just want to go to the Bucky's superchargers. I like those, they're quite nice. Going to Hardeeville, that's a pretty easy on and off one. That was actually the first one that added to the Savannah area before they added the 2 pooler ones, but haven't been there in quite a long time since my old Model S. Orangeburg, we stopped there on the way down. That's a very nice stop, very easy access, solar canopy at a convenience store, so nice place to be. We'll then stop at the Circle K in Rock Hill, top off briefly before we go back to Charlotte because I don't want to roll in dead, so that way I can actually do things this evening without having to charge. So that's what that Rock Hill address is, and there I'll be home. So looks like we'll be home just about 7:30 or so, hoping to get close to that time if I can. So let's hit the road. Here's our stats so far. I'm not going to reset this, but I will pull in some Teslafy stats at the end for today. And I'm going to be skipping the Starbucks this morning, and instead I'll get a yerba mate at Bucky's because the first Bucky's is in just about an hour, so I'm not too concerned. I'll get some caffeine then, and then that way it'll be effective a little bit later rather than starting off here at 9:51 is when we're hitting the road. Yeah, I'm just trying to make time and get home as quickly as I can today versus on the way down I added I think 12 stops or something crazy. That was fun, but today is about piling on the miles and getting home as quickly as I can. And I do get a lot of questions about the accessories I have. I have a phone mount, radar detector mount, and then also even the temporary PPF. I do have an Amazon influencers page linked in the description below, and I'll also be having a full deep dive on accessories coming pretty soon. Just want to make sure I like all the accessories that I have, and if I need to swap any out, that way I can do so. So I make sure I'm recommending the right ones to you guys. I always like to make sure I use things myself before I recommend them because if I'm putting my name on it, I want it to actually be good. So check out that link down below. And if you haven't already, check out my road trip on my way down to Florida because we stopped at a lot of places, including a Rivian Adventure Network site, Electrify America, and then also a FPL super old site on the Turnpike. So recommend that. It has over 15,000 views as of today, so people are clearly liking it. So I would imagine you will too, especially if you're watching this video. So this Daytona Beach Bucky stop is going to be very brief. Just wanted to stop in here. It's right off I-95. Check it out, say I've been here. We'll plug in for a moment, probably run in, grab a yerba mate or something. But the next one in St. Augustine, that's going to be a little bit longer stop because we have, I think, 177 miles from St. Augustine up to Hardeeville, South Carolina. So really need a deep charge there, and that's fine. I'll spend some time there, actually give you guys a bit of a tour of Bucky's, but this one we'll just swing around, plug in, run inside, get back on the road. This site is maybe not the fastest on and off to Bucky's, unfortunately. So here we have Bucky's. They have massive destination gas stations, as crazy of a concept as that sounds. We can see massive station. I don't know how many pumps they have at this one in particular, but they have some with over 100. And a lot of them have Tesla superchargers. Not all of them, but plenty. I think all new Bucky's are coming with Tesla superchargers. I need to find where they are in this parking lot. Usually they're around an edge somewhere. But you can see just the massive scale, the massive amount of pumps. Some of them have car washes. The one in Katy, Texas has the world's longest car wash, which is just crazy. Let's look for the supercharger. I'm going to guess the supercharger is over here because that's often where they are. And they actually don't allow trucks, like semis. They're passenger vehicles, buses, like medium duty, like tow trucks only. Which is quite interesting that they would have this, but there's someone with a massive boat there. That should probably not be in here, but it's being towed by just a normal truck, so I guess it's allowed. They are just blocking all sorts of things. It's huge though. I see the superchargers straight ahead. And just, wow, this is just chaos. It is July 7th, Friday after 4th of July, so kind of makes sense, but Bucky's are often like this, just madness. You can see the traffic in front of the supercharger. So I'm gonna pull in, plug in Model 3, 2 Model Ys. So here we have it. We'll get plugged in. Just like that. Under the Daytona Beach Bucky sign. I don't think I have time to run in. Actually, I have to join a work call, but we'll just charge here for a moment, then get back on the road. Here we have the stats from that drive. So we drove 69 miles. We've got 58 miles to the next Bucky's supercharger. Not bad. So we'll arrive there with 14%, and then that will be a fairly deep charge. Looks like we've got some traffic on I-95 as we get into St. Augustine. Not ideal. Well, we're on the road. We're in Daytona Beach. We're at Bucky's. We've got a 12 stall version 3 supercharger. Very chaotic parking lot, not the easiest in and out, but it's a Bucky's, so you kind of expect that. There you can see the Daytona over there, but we're charging as we should. We arrived with 51%. I just wanted to stop in, and then we're headed to St. Augustine, which is the next Bucky's supercharger, 58 miles north on I-95, and we're blasting back to Charlotte. at the St. Augustine, Florida Bucky's supercharger. We've got a nearly full supercharger actually. I think we have 1 or 2 stalls open. Let's get plugged in, just like that. We've got quite a few cars here. It's a 12 stall version 3. Very nice purple Model Y down there. And this is gonna be a little bit of a longer stop because we're actually trying to head all the way up to Hardeeville. It looks like that. We're getting full power even with the nearly full site. Excellent. 184 kilowatts. So 177 miles to Hardeeville. I'm gonna go inside, wander around, and if we wrap up sooner, well, maybe we'll leave sooner, but otherwise we'll just charge up quite a bit here. Time to go into Bucky's here. So you can see the Costco across the street for comparison. And the Costco is basically the same size as Bucky's. I think the lot for Bucky's is actually bigger somehow. So you've got the island there for bigger vehicles, I think, where they just split it so they'd have a drive aisle. Here you can see that Bucky's actually pays their employees pretty well. So starting at $18 an hour, which is not bad for working at a gas station, and their managers are actually like paid really well. So pretty impressive. Let's go inside. I need to find some food, some caffeine, and we'll get back on the road. Well, I can say with confidence I've never shopped at a gas station with a basket before, but we've got quite a bit of stuff here. Car's already charged up to 93% without even trying, and I haven't even eaten yet, so that's fun. Yeah, I'm gonna eat my burrito quick because that's probably the only thing I can't really eat while driving. And then we'll probably hit the road because by the time I'm done eating the burrito, we'll be at basically 100% would be my guess. Not sure how full the supercharger is. I did see on the app that there were 2 stalls open when I looked like 10 minutes ago. I think we've been here like 35, 40 minutes walking back to the car. And then it's 177 miles to Hardeeville. Well, luckily I'm not hogging a stall that someone's waiting for. Looks like we've got another YouTuber here, Tesla Lucky. Shout out to them. Never heard of them before, but there they are. There's my car. 2 more Model Ys. Like I said, whole haul of Bucky's. Goodness. Well, we're up to 97%. Ate my veggie burrito. It was quite good, actually. I was pretty impressed with that. I've got my Blueforia Yerba Mate, one of my favorites, and I've got some Cosmic Pops loaded up. I'll probably have one of the pastries, baked goods at the next stop when I'm hungry, and there's probably not going to be as good of options. But we're going to continue on. I'm going to hop out, unplug. Yeah, there's that Model X behind us. And let's hit the road. 177 miles. That'll be the longest stretch I've gone in this car straight through ever. So 2 hours, 45 minutes. We'll see how it does. It's currently projecting 12% arrival there. So I'm going to burn up that buffer as we get closer. We'll see how traffic does. Looks like there's a little bit of traffic in Jacksonville and just north of Savannah. We'll see how that clears up, but let's unplug. So 98%, still getting 20 kilowatts, which is pretty solid. Can't complain about that. Just like that. These are very nice and fresh. These must have just opened. I don't know when they opened. But time to get on the road. Just like that, end drive. Let's get going. So if you're curious, the charge time, 20 to 98% was 52 minutes. Just looked at Testify as I'm sitting in this completely stop and go traffic on the way out of Bucky's. So maybe avoid Bucky's on holiday travel days. It's a little crazy, but just depends if you're in a hurry or not. I'm not really in a hurry. I'd like to get home as soon as I can, but a little bit of extra time doesn't really make or break. I'm just trying to not make more stops than I need to. Currently projecting we'll arrive home at 8:10, so I think we've added 40 minutes so far compared to what it was originally estimating. Hardeeville should be a 25-minute stop. Orangeburg probably about another 20, 25-minute stop. It's currently saying 35 minutes because Doesn't realize we can charge in Rock Hill at Circle K. And yeah, I'll probably just roll home and go to bed when I get home. Well, I think we're going to go to Yemassee, South Carolina supercharger instead of going to Hardeeville. So just a bit further. I think it's like 15, 20 miles further. Doesn't think we're going to make it unless we stay below 70 miles per hour, but I'm not going to do that. So we'll just see if we make it. It says we'll arrive at 3% as of right now. We'll see if that holds or not. So far, we've driven 71 miles on this charge, down from 98% to 60%, averaging 340 watt hour per mile. So beating our average so far for the lifetime and for this whole Florida trip. We've got 133 miles to go to Yemassee. Well, we're down to a 1% estimated arrival to Yemassee, so maybe we will end up going to Hardeeville there, but we'll see. We'll decide as we get a bit closer. There's also Pooler if we really need it, but we shouldn't need to stop that early. But we're 94 miles out. We've driven 111 miles so far on this charge, 334 watt hour per mile, which is not bad. Better than we've been averaging since I got the car. Almost at 2,000 miles. I think we'll hit 2,000 miles on the car, regardless of which supercharger we go to. Well, we're sitting in traffic and it was showing 0% arrival to Yemassee. You can see here. Yeah, habit route. The dinging you're hearing is navigate on autopilot going on and off. You'll see the lines changing here. So it wants us to go to Hardeeville first to even get to Yemassee. So let me just remove charging stops so you can see. There we go. So it's saying we'll make it there with 1% now, but I'd rather not have to limp along in traffic and cut climate or anything after this traffic. So instead, I'm going to edit trip. We're going to remove Yemassee. We're just going to go to Hardeeville. It's also at a gas station, which is slightly better than going to the Wendy's that it was at. Even though there was a gas station nearby, I'd rather just go to the gas station for charging. And we'll arrive there with 12%, which is fine. We'll charge there briefly. It's like about 25 minutes. That seems a little long. We'll see what the options look like, and then we'll continue on. So I'll see you guys at Hardeeville shortly. Arrived in Hardeeville. We've got this truck and a trailer blocking some of the access. So I guess I'll just drive around it because they think they're more important than access to the superchargers. Just plugged in Hardeeville, seeing some pretty weird behavior here with how the power is coming up and down. Let's see what the heck is going on there. That is super weird. I've never seen behavior like that on a supercharger before. We do have a pretty much full site, possibly even completely full. Yeah, we've got a full site here. Am I on 1B maybe? I'm on 2A, which is not the stall that's down. But that is the weirdest behavior I've ever seen on a Tesla supercharger before. Move stalls to 2C here. Let's see if we're getting the same weird behavior. That looks pretty normal now. There we go, that's more like it. Super weird behavior. We're almost done charging. You can hear all the fans whirring. But glad I was able to get a good charge after moving stalls. We're at about 50%. I think I'm gonna probably charge a 60, 65% or so. We've got 104 miles to go to Orangeburg. Let's see what it wants us to charge up to. So at 50% is showing 2%, I'll show you. So we're at 50% now, 78 kilowatts. And to get to Orangeburg, currently it's showing 2% arrival. And then here's a trick to get to recalculate if you have multiple stops. Just go into edit trip, hit done. It will recalculate. So 2%, we'll probably charge up until that hits, I don't know, 10% or so. I'd like to be able to go fairly quickly on 95 because it looks like we have fairly minimal traffic. We of course have bailout options in Yemassee, Walterboro, and St. George, so I'm not super concerned, but I'd prefer to not have to stop additionally if possible, so that we can just continue on and get home at a reasonable time. Currently showing arrival home at 8:33, but we gotta add in a little bit of a charge there. Just going to charge up a little bit more. Well, I think we can continue on now. That popped up a moment ago. We're at 62% state of charge. Let's just look at our battery temperatures before we close out. We're at 61.75 degrees Celsius. Pretty reasonable, nothing too crazy. We'll close out of service mode. Showing 14% arrival to Orangeburg, which I'm totally comfortable with. I'll probably run down some of that buffer if I can. And let's just unplug. You can see our stats so far, 1,630 miles on this Florida trip, and just shy of 2,000 miles on the odometer there. And because it's Tesla, to unplug, simply press and hold until that goes white. Put it back there. Let's continue on. I'm now remembering this highway entrance. We have to literally dart right across and hope for the best as we cross traffic here. Better than going down and then flipping all the way around though. The Hardeeville site is actually a fairly significant site on Tesla's East Coast network. Early on when the site opened, there was only the Savannah Airport supercharger, which is early 125 kilowatt version 2 supercharger that's at the airport in a parking garage there. It's like 4 miles off I-95, something like that, maybe a little less, but still quite far off the interstate, not ideal for road trips. And then they added this Hardeeville one in June of 2020, and that just made it so much easier if you were traveling I-95, so that way you didn't have to take a massive detour. Now there's also 2 pooler sites, so not as big of a deal anymore, and lots of added capacity in the general Savannah area. But that was an important site, and I remember charging there because I think it was one of my first times ever charging on a V3. But yeah, last time I was in Hardeeville was in a Model S in 2021. Well, that arrival estimate went up quite a bit, but that's fine. We'll see if there's some opportunities to burn off some of that buffer, but otherwise, not the end of the world. I guess we'll just have a shorter charge stop in Orangeburg. Since we only need enough to make it to Rock Hill, we don't need to be there with 18%. We can get there with single digits and be totally fine. 1,999 miles. Just about to cross 2,000 miles on the car. There we go, 2,000 miles on my Model Y. And you can see that the odometer matches the lifetime trip there, which is excellent. And we're just continuing on. We've got 95 miles till Orangeburg. Well, I think we can actually bypass the Orangeburg supercharger there and go all the way to Casey or Case. I don't really know how you pronounce it, which we've added there. It looks like we'll ride with 3%, which is totally fine. But this segment is being really efficient. I'm not entirely sure why, or it's the first segment I've seen that's under 300 watt hour per mile. But we're averaging over 60 miles per hour, doing 60 miles in 53 minutes. So that's pretty solid. But yeah, we're going to continue on, assuming that we have enough range to make it there, which I think we will, especially if traffic continues kind of like this with medium slowdowns here and there that improve efficiency quite a bit. Well, before turning on to I-26 from I-95, so we're now headed west towards Columbia, I just had my hands resting on my legs, was just letting autopilot do its thing. Obviously had my hand ready to take control if needed, but it was a very straight road. And it seemed to go a really long time without nagging me at all, like to put my hands on the wheel. Then after a little bit, I decided to start a timer on my phone just to see exactly how long it was going. And the timer went all the way up to 5 minutes before I then had to go on to I-26. So then I had to confirm a lane change. But I didn't touch the touchscreen, the steering wheel, buttons, stalks, anything for well over 5 minutes, and the car didn't do anything. For a little bit of I even tried covering the interior camera with one of my hands, and it still didn't nag at me. So I don't know if that's really impressive or really concerning or maybe a bit of both. But if you guys have any insight as to what Tesla's doing for their logic behind driver monitoring, or if there's logic for driver monitoring, I'd be curious. And I'm on software version 11.1, which is 2023.20.7 on a hardware 4 car. So I'm curious and concerned at the same time, but also not complaining because it's kind of nice not having a ton of nags. Also, update on the battery. We're at 26%. We've driven 85 miles. We charged to 64% at the last stop. So we've used 38% to go 85 miles. And we're planning still to go to Casey, South Carolina, just outside Columbia there. And it looks like we'll ride with 2%, so I'm totally fine with that. We're gonna just continue on, and I mean, if we need to slow down a little bit towards the end, we certainly can, but I'm not too concerned. We seem to be still getting pretty darn good efficiency, even though it did go up to 290. We made it to Case, South Carolina. We're at 2% state of charge. We drove 136 miles, 295 watt hour per mile. Let's get plugged in. It's a double-sided setup. Generally works pretty well. We've got a Sonic, we've got a hotel. I don't know what chain that is, doesn't look very nice though. Abandoned Piggly Wiggly grocery store and some other random stuff. So not the greatest spot. There's a Pilot literally like right over there. I wish they had put it there, but whatever. Let's take a look at our speeds. Enable high voltage charging. There we go. So 3%, we're getting 588 amps. It did not precondition because we rolled in so low, so that could be why it's limiting a little bit. Pack is pretty warm though, 54 degrees Celsius. You can see that over there now, 55. So I wouldn't think that would be a limiting factor. If anything, it might be a little too hot. But looks like we don't have a very long stop here. We just need to add, let's see, so it's 82 miles, so probably like 55% or so. But we'll charge up. We got a Model 3 here. We've got our 3 cabinets. This is the 12 stall version 3. Quick rate your charge update from Case, South Carolina. We've got an abandoned Piggly Wiggly, some random shops, Lucky's Sports Shack, Vape World, Subway, Coffee Koala, not great hotel looking. We've got a Sonic, 12 stall version 3 supercharger. This is one of those double-sided line ones. I don't hate the setup, it works. There's a handicap stall down there that's nice and level. We pulled in at 3%. We're already up to 11%. It started out about 205 kilowatts. I think we were limited because the battery didn't precondition. It started around 55C, so a bit toasty. I was actually driving pretty reasonably. We got 295 watt hour per mile on that leg, 136 miles. We started with 64% from the last charge. So should be a pretty brief stop, and then we'll continue on. Just finished our 19-minute stop. We're at 55% state of charge. Battery is pretty toasty at 60C. Close out of service mode there. We'll continue on. So we're headed to Rock Hill Circle K. We'll charge a bit there, and then we'll head home. I don't want to roll in dead in case I want to do anything this evening. But we're at 1,765 miles and just over 26 lifetime odometer. So let's get on the road and get home. And there's the Sonic I was showing you guys. And just right here behind this Hardee's is the Pilot. And I think that's where they should have put the supercharger. I think that would have been a better location, but I must say, I'm pretty impressed with how they put this supercharger. You can see where it is. Because we came in off 26 like that, very easy, and then we're going to get on to 77 to go around Columbia very easily as well. So, really good spot for a supercharger, I must say. Well, I may have sent it a little too hard on the way up here on I-77. There was very little traffic. We're at 0%. Had to kind of limp it along the little last way at about 60 miles an hour. Not ideal. Pack is fairly warm, but not too toasty. I activated the Circle K charger here. I think I activated it. Yep, we're authorized. So getting the CCS adapter out here. Let's see if I can do this one-handed maybe. Just like that. I took too long, so I'm gonna have to reactivate it here. And then we'll plug in, I'll show you 400 amps. Activated it on the app. Now we'll plug in. Just like that. Should be a pretty quick handshake. Heard the contactor on the charger go. Starting to charge, give it a second here. Charger's ramping up, I hear it behind me. Pack voltage very low, about 300 volts. So we were pretty low. And there we go, full 400 amps, about 130 kilowatt. Should hold that to about 19% is what I saw in a version 2 supercharger that has a pretty similar charging characteristics to these ABB Terra 184s. And I'm just gonna kind of get my car sorted before heading home. Just charging up here, gonna run in the store, grab a beverage. Then it's time to head home. Well, I figure while we're charging, we'll wrap this video up. I'll go over some of the stats from today's driving, and we'll just end it here because we're about 15 miles from home, and that's close enough. So we drove today 525.12 miles. We charged 5 supercharges plus charging here, plus we started with full charge. And that does include 2 sessions in Hardeeville because the first session was faulty. So let me just show you this here. So here's on the car screen, we drove 1,849 miles for this full Florida trip. We're up to 2,200 miles on the vehicle itself. And here's the Teslafy stats for today. If this wants to focus, there we go. So 525 miles, 67% efficiency averaged, 338 watt hour per mile. That should be pretty much spot on. I did calibrate Teslafy. We've got our supercharging cost about $40, and we did start with a full charge. It's showing 5 because after it completed at 90%, it did a small bit every once in a while to replenish. There's some of our charge times there. And here is the map of where we drove. So we started down here in Orlando, drove all the way up, and we're now basically in Charlotte, North Carolina. But anyway, this was a fairly uneventful road trip. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Plenty more road trips to come. I'm actually headed from Charlotte to Minneapolis area next week in just a few days. So that's going to be an even longer trip. That's about 1,200 miles each way. We're going to be driving there, spending about 10 days and then coming back, going to some concerts, things like that, seeing friends and family. But really enjoying the new Model Y. I wish it was slightly more efficient, but that's probably due to my speed. Range is adequate, but not great. Still not fully decided on how I feel about that, but really, really pleased with the overall experience of the car, the ride quality, noise. It's a lovely place to be, to just pile on the miles, and it cruises along the interstate so nicely. Could not be happier in that regard. And superchargers, well, they're wonderful. They work perfectly. So, well, pretty much perfectly, as we saw today. But anyway, see you guys on the next one.